always. I've always wanted to be an artist, and it's the only thing that I feel I've ever been certain about. It's the only thing that I've ever known 100% that's what I want to do. In regards to education, education has played a huge factor. Not only have I had a long line of amazing tutors and teachers who have helped support and encourage me, but you know, being in school was difficult for me. I wasn't very good at a lot of the other things, but knowing that I could go to the art room and at least be an A straight student in that subject really helped my mental health and my ability to keep moving forwards. I love being an artist. Quite a lot. I have to account for tide times, and that can often require days of planning in advance because I am restricted by when the tide is high and when the tide is low. I also have to plan, particularly if I've got a piece that I have already started or a piece that I'm wanting to start, that I have enough of one material to kind of begin and potentially complete, mostly in one sitting. So I have to plan how much of one material I might need and how many days it might take for me to collect. Also, depending on how much I can actually physically carry. When it came to collecting the bones, I could only carry as much as my bag would account for, and then I would have to stop and then think about coming back and doing it again. Yeah, there is an element of spontaneity, which can actually be some of the most rewarding parts of making. Like, for example, I'm working on a new piece right now where I'm working with teeth that I've collected, and I hadn't set out to collect teeth and a lot of them, so I started this new piece and I haven't actually got enough to now finish what I visualise as being the end result. So yesterday I went to the Thames to specifically collect teeth, and it just so happens, and this does happen quite a lot, that I couldn't find any, or not enough anywhere. Maybe I found a few, but while I was there I noticed more iridescent shards of shell, which actually drew my focus and my attention more towards those, and I thought, well, it gives me an opportunity to think of new pieces, new possibilities, so that, you know, there's only so much planning you can do. I can't plan to get a certain amount of teeth in one sitting when I don't know what's going to be there.
Yeah, I really enjoy working with alternative materials. I like the challenge, but I also like the excitement of it, the sense of discovering something. Yeah, especially working with glass and bronze, and you know, these are very intensive processes, dealing with a lot of heat and a lot of transformation of material state, and I find that really, really compelling and exciting. Is it complicated to work with? It can be, particularly glass. Glass is a very fickle material to work with, and there's a lot of trial and error and education that has to be gone through in order to minimize the difficulties that you come across in the fabrication process.
There is a backstory, but not specifically to bones themselves. I've always been interested in sort of discarded waste or discarded objects. I've always been interested in not just the materials themselves, but the story that they can tell. I like the idea of taking something that someone sees no value in, no real purpose, and elevating it in a way that can be seen as beautiful, or if not beautiful, at least to generate a new topic of conversation about the way that we place value in objects and the world around us. And I think if I'm to talk specifically about the bones, I guess not only are they beautiful objects in themselves, but there's a whole history to be told through them. You know, when I'm thinking about the bones in the river, I'm thinking about how they got there, and a history of London which is rich but very different to the world we're living in now. And I think that contrast can be really interesting to explore.
I suppose my entire practice deals with links to landscape and connections with place. So this is a constant concern for me, and I spend a lot of my time exploring my surroundings and the locality where I might find myself. And I'm also, in more normal times, not so much in the past year, but in more normal times, I'm hopelessly itinerant, and I very much like the contrasting energies between the different places where I put myself. Being from the rural north of Scotland, it's quite a contrast and a difference of character between there and the cities where I also find myself, Amsterdam and London. I suppose in the most simple sense, it's home. It's the landscape and the place that I know best. It's very much a part of me, how I view myself. Growing up in the Scottish Highlands, landscape, and particularly big landscape, has always featured quite heavily as part of my notion of self, and so I kind of carry that with me everywhere that I go. It's always in my head. Yeah, that's what sparked my interest in how people can have this intimate connection with landscape and place. Yeah, I'd say that I have a very close relationship with my works. Very much feel that each one has its own character and own voice, and every piece of work that I've ever released, I've always been very happy, very satisfied with it. If I wasn't satisfied with it, I wouldn't one, I wouldn't feel that it was finished, but two, I wouldn't feel comfortable with putting it out to the world unless I was entirely satisfied with it. So it's really just, yeah, once I get that sense of voice from the piece, then I think I know when it's complete.
I'm really proud of the work that I make. Particularly my sculptural pieces, they can take a lot of time to put together. There is a love of labour involved. And generally, when I start making a piece, if something's not working or it doesn't feel right, then I won't continue, because time is too valuable to waste it on something that doesn't feel good for me. I really like the work that I managed to put out into the world.